Ballistic. I can go ballistic. I can go ballistic. I promise you. I've controlled myself.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's come to order. We're going to go ahead and get this meeting started. I think some of the bad weather, I'm hoping it'll hold off for us. But what we do need to go ahead and get started. Candy.
Hi, Judge. Yes, I'm asked Tom Lundstrom, who tells me he prays for me all the time, to deliver the prayer for me tonight.
Okay.
Join me in prayer. Our precious Heavenly Father, we are eternally grateful for the mercy and the grace that you bestow upon this great nation that we live in. We pray for all of our men and women in uniform that are stationed throughout the world. Ask that you would place your hand of protection upon them and keep them safe. As we gather here tonight to conduct the county's business, we ask that you will lead each and every one of us to make those decisions that are in the best interest of the people of this county. We ask these things tonight in Christ's great and holy name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Tom.
Karen, would you please call the roll?
Marty Alford.
Present.
Rex Bailey.
Present.
Candy Clark.
Yes.
Rick Cochran.
Here.
Lance East.
Here.
John Furman.
Here.
Barbara Fitzpatrick.
Here.
Ann Harbison.
Here.
Tom Wilson.
Here.
Eva Madison.
Here.
Joe Patterson. Butch Palmer.
Here.
Marion Spears.
We do have a quorum present. Are there any changes needed to the agenda? Yes.
Yes, ma'am. I need to add 7.1, an emergency ordinance authorizing the county judge to exchange equipment with Madison County.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Yes.
I'd like to make I'd like to table 12, motion to table item 12, which is the unsightly and unsanitary conditions.
I have a motion to table item 12.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do I need discussion?
Just need, if there's not any discussion, just need a
If
vote.
there's no discussion, I'm just asking, is everyone in favor?
Yeah.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The next thing I have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. Against, same sign. Next thing I have is approval of the minutes. The minutes of the February the 9th Quorum Court meeting has been distributed. Are there any corrections?
Move approval of the minutes.
I have a
Second.
motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The next thing we have on the agenda is a public hearing, and I'm going to ask Jay to come forth, and please identify yourself for us, Jay.
Good evening. I'm Jay Stallard. I'm the Grants Administrator for the Northwest Arkansas Economic Development District. One of the requirements of some of the grants that we have right now, one of them is a disaster grant for a generator project with the WWA. And we finally inspected it today, and part of this process is a second public hearing on that project. The generators cost $84,209, and the fencing contractor cost $11,900. Unfortunately, we can't quite spend the rest of that money, but we're sure somebody else can use it somewhere. So we're going to close this one up and turn it back. Part of this report is just to tell you that that is about to close out the generators project, and that concludes that part of that public hearing. The second part of this public hearing is the Phase 2 Southeast Washington County Water Project. which is just under construction and just did the groundbreaking. Part of the requirement for it is also a second public hearing, and those public hearings can be held any time. Typically, if a small project, we hold it at the end. If it's a big project, we hold it somewhere after the contractor starts, which he has. I can tell you that project is a $9,061,000 type project. So we're real happy it's underway up there.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, and so if there's any other questions, I'd be glad to answer them on either the generators project or on the water projects. And if not, I will.
Do I have anyone that would like to make comments at this time in regards to these projects? I just know one thing. I certainly am happy with the last one you gave to be able to get the water project started for those folks.
You bet. We're real tickled about that.
It's going to be a very happy day when it's done. Thank you, Jay.
Right. Thank you all very much. If you don't mind, I'll excuse myself. It's a couple-hour drive home.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
With no further comments to be made, this public hearing is now closed. The next thing I have is the financial report.
7.1, please, George.
Okay, 7.1. An emergency ordinance authorizing the county judge to exchange equipment with Madison County. Whereas Arkansas Code Annotated 1416-116 authorizes counties to exchange real or personal property upon approval by the Quorum Court by ordinance. And whereas Washington County owns a 1993 Blue Knox rubber tire asphalt laydown machine equipment worth between $12,000 and $15,000. And whereas the county judge has advised that the county no longer needs this piece of equipment and that such is surplus, which could be sold by auction pursuant to ACA 14-16-106. Whereas the county judge of Madison County has expressed an interest in and a need for said equipment. And whereas the purpose of ACA 14-16-116 appears to be to authorize counties to aid and assist each other. Whereas Madison County is in need of such, now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, Article 1, the county judge is hereby authorized to exchange the aforesaid equipment for the amount of $15,000. Article 2, emergency clause. It is hereby determined that it is in the best interest of the citizens of Washington County that this ordinance go into effect immediately. Therefore, an emergency is declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be and is effective from the date of its passage.
Thank you, George. I move that we pass 7.1.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion? This is an emergency ordinance. Do I have any public comments before the passage of this ordinance? With no further comments, Karen, would you please call the roll?
Rick Cochran,
Yes.
Lance Dean,
Yes.
John Burke,
Yes.
Barbara Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Ann Harbison,
Yes.
Tom Lunston,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Joe Patterson, Butch Vaughn,
Yes.
Marion Spears, Marty Albrook,
Yes.
Rex Bailey,
Yes, ma'am.
Sandy Clark.
Yes.
This ordinance is adopted.
Okay, George, 7.2.
Okay. Before I read this, I will not read the fund numbers.
Chicken.
For sake of brevity.
Yeah,
An ordinance adjusting carryover revenues and various funds for 2012. Article 1, there are hereby reduced carryover revenues in the various county funds as follows for 2012. Insurance benefits carryover, $16,937. Road fund carryover, $1,014,384. Recorder's cost fund carryover, $32. County library fund carryover, $141,117. County clerk's cost fund carryover, $6,733. Jail fund carryover, $472,268. Juvenile court representation fund carryover, $1,577. HIV clinic fund, $27,323. Law library fund carryover, $6,723. Article 2. There are hereby recognized additional carryover revenues in the various county funds as follows for 2011. General fund carryover, $8,232,354. Flex spend fund carryover, $9,381. Central supplies fund carryover, $12,813. Treasurer's automation fund carryover, $10,331. Circuit court automation fund carryover, $11,563. County clerk's cost fund carryover, $15,545. Child Support Cost Fund carryover, $22,183. Communication Facility Equipment carryover, $150,941. Sheriff Boating Fund carryover, $1,078. 911 Fund carryover, $756,099. Drug Court Program Fund, $57,927. Drug Enforcement State Fund, $3,584. Drug Court Federal Fund, $6,598. Homeland Security Interest Fund carryover, $1,442. Rural Community Grant Fund carryover, $4,761. Courthouse Security Grant Fund carryover, $5,924. Court Cost and Fines Fund carryover, $59,611. Article 3, the special line item of the Juvenile Court Representation Budget in the Juvenile Court Representation Fund is hereby reduced by the amount of $1,577 for 2012.
Thank you, George. I'm glad I don't have to do that. What this is would reflect the carryover and the adjusted budget thereof. Article 1 indicates funds that did not carry over as much as Roger Haney had anticipated, and that's the amount. Article 2 are all the other funds that did carry over. I do believe that our reserve now, our unrestricted, unappropriated contingency funds are in the area of $14 million at this point. I move that we pass 7.2.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? With no further discussion, Karen, would you call the roll?
Rick Humphrey.
Yes.
Lance Eaton.
Yes.
John Thurman.
Yes.
Barbara Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Ann Hardison.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Joe Patterson. Butch Vaughn.
Yes.
Mary Ann Spears. Margie Ellsworth.
Yes.
Rex Bailey.
Yes, ma'am.
Candy Clark.
Yes.
This ordinance has been approved.
Thank you. 7.3, George.
It's an ordinance reducing revenues and appropriations in the Adult Drug Court Fund by $10,000 and recognizing and appropriating the amount of $30,000 in the general fund for 2012. Revenues are hereby reduced by $10,000 in the donations revenue line item of the Adult Drug Court Fund for 2012. Article 2. The transfers outline item in the Adult Drug Court budget of the Adult Drug Court Fund is hereby reduced by $10,000 for 2012. Article 3, there is hereby recognized additional revenue totaling $30,000 in the following revenue line items of the general fund for 2012. State grants, $20,000, donations, $10 for total revenues of $30,000. Article 4,
10,000.
pardon me. Donations are $10,000, total revenues are $30,000. Article 4, there's hereby appropriated the amount of $30,000 from the general fund to line items in the following budgets for 2012. Drug court treatment, professional services, $10,000. ADR grant, professional services, $20,000 for a total appropriation of $30,000.
Thank you, George. This ordinance recognizes state grants that we have obtained, plus a donation from the city of Fayetteville, because they busted an inordinate number of bad guys and had $10,000 to give us, and we have appropriated it back to drug court. I move we pass 7.3.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? With no further comments, Karen, would you call the roll?
Rick Humphrey.
Yes.
Lance Eaton.
Yes.
John Thurman.
Yes.
Barbara Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Ann Hardison.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Joe Patterson. Butch Vaughn.
Yes.
Mary Ann Spears. Margie Ellsworth.
Yes.
Rex Bailey.
Yes, ma'am.
Candy Clark.
Yes.
This ordinance is adopted.
7.4, please, George.
This is an ordinance anticipating revenue of $31,583 in the general fund and appropriating $31,583 from the general fund to various Homeland Security budgets for 2012. Article 1. There is hereby anticipated additional revenue of $31,583 in the Homeland Security grants revenue line item of the general fund for 2012. Article 2. There's hereby appropriated the total amount of $31,583 from the general fund to the following budget for 2012. Fiscal year 2009, secondary law enforcement, machinery and equipment, $9,739. fiscal year 2009 secondary state Homeland Security grant, machinery and equipment, $21,844. Total appropriation, $31,583.
Thank you, George. Again, this is the acceptance of various grants and appropriating them back to where they belong. I move we pass 7.4.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Rick Hoffman,
Yes.
Lance East,
Yes.
John Furman,
Yes.
Barbara Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Ann Harvey.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Joe Patterson, Luke Vaughn.
Yes.
Marion Spears, Marty Albrecht,
Yes.
Rex Bailey.
Yes, ma'am.
Candy Clark.
Yes.
This ordinance is adopted.
Thank you. 7.5, please, George.
It's an ordinance recognizing revenues of $12,666 in the general fund and appropriating the amount of $12,666 from the general fund to various ADEQ budget for 2012. There are hereby recognized revenues of $12,666 in the carryover revenue line item of the general fund for 2012. Article 2, there's hereby appropriated the amount of $12,666 from the general fund to line items in the following budgets for 2012. ADEQ 2010 general supplies, $10,824. ADEQ HHW 2010 general supplies, $1,842 for a total appropriation of $12,666.
Thank you, George. I move we adopt 7.5.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? Karen, would you call the roll?
Rick Hoffman,
Yes.
Lance East,
Yes.
John Furman,
Yes.
Barbara Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Ann Ferguson.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Joe Patterson, Butch Vaughn,
Yes.
Marion Spears, Marty Albrecht,
Yes.
Rex Bailey.
Yes, ma'am.
Candy Clark.
Yes.
This ordinance is adopted.
And finally, 7.6, please, George.
This is an ordinance reducing revenues and appropriations in the Drug Enforcement State Fund and recognizing and appropriating revenues in the Drug Enforcement Federal Fund for 2012. Article 1. There are hereby reduced revenues of $14,160 in the carryover revenue line item of the Drug Enforcement State Fund for 2012. Article 2. The following line items in the Drug Enforcement State budget of the Drug Enforcement State Fund are hereby reduced by the total amount of $14,160 for 2012. Drug Enforcement State, general supplies, $8,660. Small equipment, $1,000. Clothing, uniforms, $1,500. Medical, dental, hospital, $3,000. Total appropriation, $14,160. Article 3, there are hereby recognized revenues of $14,160 in the carryover revenue line item of the Drug Enforcement Federal Fund for 2012. Article 4, there's hereby appropriated the amount of $14,160 from the Drug Enforcement Federal Fund to the following line items in the Drug Enforcement Federal budget for 2012. Drug Enforcement Federal, general supplies, $8,660. Small equipment, $1,000. Vehicles, $4,500 for a total appropriation of $14,160.
Thank you, George. I move we adopt 7.6.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Discussion? Karen, would you call the roll?
Rick Hoffman,
Yes.
Lance East,
Yes.
John Furman,
Yes.
Barbara Fitzpatrick,
Yes.
Ann Harvey,
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
Yes.
Joe Patterson, Butch Vaughn,
Yes.
Marion Spears, Marty Albrecht,
Yes.
Rex Bailey.
Yes, ma'am.
Candy Clark.
Yes.
Ordinance has been adopted. The next thing we have on the agenda is a reappointment to the Washington County Library Board. The City of Elkins has recommended Mike Mushholt to be reappointed to the Washington County Library Board. I approve of this recommendation and ask that you approve Mr. Mushholt for another 5-year term. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Thank you. Also in my packet is a report to use as required on the disposal of personal property that is no longer of value to the county. This consists of a 2006 RAP-scan X-ray system. I just wanted to let you folks know that this is being done. We do have to at least make you aware that this is being done. George, We don't have to need to do anything or take this, I just need, this was just
Correct,
Just
correct.
just
It's
let
just a
them
report.
know that this machine, we are getting rid of, and I just want to let you know about it. Okay. Next thing we have is a road update. Sean, I see you here. Would you be willing to give it for me? You can do it short and sweet. I noticed in our report, we got some pretty interesting things, and I'm very happy about it.
Judge likes to put me on the spot. Trying to think. Right now, we're trying to jump the gun and get a lot of the roads ready that we're going to chip seal, the new roads that we're going from gravel to chip seal. Right now, we've got all the base on County Road 41 to do another mile. County Road 228, where it's a little less than a mile. We stopped. There's some flooding issues there, and so we stopped below a mile to, just keep it from washing away. County Road 97, we're working on putting the base out right now. I think we are working. One of the roads that we're about to move over to is County Road 436, which is behind where they're putting the new Lincoln High School. I don't know if the judges went into this, but they had asked us about possibly paving that road, and it connects Highway 62 with Highway 45, so it's a good road. It gets quite a bit of traffic, but it's also going to help the school district to keep them from putting several of their buses out on Highway 62. It's going to let them go out and go south, and it'll be a lot safer for them. Let's see what else. We had a great winter, and
We sure have.
we're really proud of that. We put the snow plows on once this winter and didn't have to use them. We took them right back off. So, I think if we get any weather now, hopefully it won't stick around very long.
Also, this year, tell them about getting close to the city limits of Goshen.
Another project we've been working on, y'all know we opened up the Goshen Tuttle Quarry. That's what we call it. It's the quarry on the east side of the county. And in 2009, we started using our state aid money to widen that and pave it. That road, it was a paved road before, but it had always been chip sealed. And with us putting that quarry in there, it was going to increase the dump truck traffic a lot. It was kind of a narrow road, so we added 2-foot shoulders on each side. And then with our state aid money, each year we've paved a mile. And 2009 we did a mile, 2010, then last year we done another mile. This year should finish it out up to the Goshen city limits. It's a little over a mile, but we can, we'll get it done this year. It's made it a whole lot better road, especially with our dump trucks on it. It was too narrow before with that much traffic.
Also, tell them about the bridges.
The bridges, I don't know, Ann, if you've been out to Tilly Willie.
No, but it's about finished, I
The
hope.
Tilly Willie Bridge, the old Tilly Willie Bridge is gone. It's been gone since September, early September. They took it out. The new bridge is now open to traffic, but they're not finished. They've still got their paving to do, guardrail, signs, stuff like that, finish up work. But if you're out that way, you can cross the new bridge. It's a nice bridge. They've done a great job, but I'm trying to think how many months it's been.
It's been a long time.
I think it's been just less than a year, but almost a year they've been working on it. But we're getting close, and I think they should have it all finished by the end of March, early April.
And we will have a groundbreaking for anyone that would like to participate in the groundbreaking of it.
Sean, it is so that bridge was built with state and federal money, no
That is
county
correct.
money?
Just our matching. We have to do matching with all the federal
Okay.
and state aid
Do you
money.
remember how much the matching was?
No, I don't. Not exactly, but it's we got a cheap bridge as far as county money goes. So, yeah, and like I said, it's a nice bridge. It was well needed, as most of y'all know, that the old Tilly Willie was not actually a bridge. It was a dam that they'd built years ago, and
It was a danger.
it was yes. Do you want me to go over Molly Wagnon Bridge?
Let's talk just a little bit about it. Yeah.
Okay. Another project that we feel is it's time, and it's very important, is the Molly Wagnon Bridge, which is out at Baldwin. It's what they call a through truss bridge. and it's just the old iron bridge where, you know, you drive under it. It's got the, you know, the metal all around it. This bridge is rated at 7 tons. It's gone down as far as rating over the past few years. We had a firm go out and check all of our truss bridges, which we have, I guess, 4 now. One of them actually got rated down, Baptist Ford. You know, it was if you don't see a sign at a bridge, if you don't see a weight posting, that means it's 40 tons. Well, Baptist Ford just got cut down to 20, depending on what you're driving, but it's around 22 tons now. So, you know, that bridge is still in good shape. It doesn't get a whole lot of traffic anymore, but Mollywagnon is 7 tons. It gets a lot of traffic. A lot of people cut off Highway 16 over to 265 to, you know, it's a shortcut and to miss a lot of that morning traffic. We're working right now. We met the engineers out there last week. Right now, it's kind of how we want to design it, where we need to put it. Do we put it back in the original position? Do we, you know, move it down the river a little bit? We're trying to figure that out. A lot of it depends on property owners, whether they will give us right-of-way, easement. I don't know if how many of y'all have been out there, but that's a tough bridge. It's on the north side. It's higher. As you cross the bridge, you drop down, and that's the way that bridge was built, to flood around that south side. Well, those through truss bridges, the decking is about, I'd say, 18 inches. Well, when they don't make those bridges anymore, and now we use beams. Well, now we're gonna have to increase the height of that bridge because of the beams. You got to keep your opening the same, because you don't want to flood anybody upriver, downriver. So that, as far as engineers, you know, they won't design a bridge and change a lot of things for those reasons. There's a lot of issues on this bridge, so we're working through those. Another issue is paying for it. You know, we've got Wayne working hard, trying to find some money. You know, that's a big issue, and
we'll be back.
Yeah, we will. But right now, the engineers, we won't know what it's going to cost until we decide where we're going to put it. You know, can we put it back in the same spot? We've looked at it. There's no way that the way the land lays, the way that river bends, without spending, I don't know how much money, but to get it completely out of the water.
Just very shortly, tell them a little bit about our fire trucks.
And that is a big problem. Right now, the fire trucks, Round Mountain fire trucks, they have to go around back into Fayetteville, down Wyman, and come back up Highway 16. Same thing if Elkins comes to help Round Mountain, they can't go that way. It takes them. Ron said how many miles it adds on. 7 to 10
minutes longer to get around.
Yeah, and so that's a big issue. We need 2 lanes. We need a higher rated weight limit bridge. So.
Thank you, Sean. I just kind of wanted to enlighten them on all of these because, like I say, we've got several things coming on this bridge, and we will be bringing it back. But I just wanted to let them know about the road. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. We also, I know a lot of people in this audience and around this table knows we've got other bridges we've got problems with, but this is not new. This is a problem all over the nation. Everyone, every city, every place around has got problems with their bridges, and there just does not seem to be any federal money out there to help us folks try to do what we have to do for the safety of our citizens. So this is just another problem that we face, but we'll all face it together, and I do thank y'all for listening to that report. Next thing we have is our committee reports. John.
Thank you, Judge. We met on Tuesday, February 21st, and the planning director, Juliette Ritchie, told us that there would be no planning board meeting in March due to a lack of agenda items. We had a couple things that we discussed. One was an ordinance that we'll be discussing. It's item 11 under packet. We'll be discussing it later tonight. I'll leave it at that. Item 12, which I tabled, is an ordinance allowing the county to regulate unsightly property and be able to try to take action against landlords that rent their property or keep their property, where we get complaints from neighbors, we'll be able to do some regulation. So that's going to be under discussion in April. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, John. Tom?
Judge, we did not meet for lack of an agenda.
Okay. Ann?
Personnel met, and Blair Johansson, our salary consultant, gave a report on performance documents that we already have in place, which is merit pay, and the general consensus from JSAP was, they'd like, if we go this way, they would like for it to occur every year, so that people would work toward the merit pay. Okay, that's all we did.
Okay, thank you, Ann. Butch?
Yes, the jail and law enforcement and courts committee met February 27th, and we had an update on the Washington County Work Court program from Circuit Judge Chad Mason. It was very informative, and we had a resolution urging the county court to reduce the number of townships, which what that pertained to was reducing the number of constables, I believe, and quite a lively discussion on that. We didn't move on that. That was basically it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have one other little short item I want to bring. I'm reporting to you, as required by ACA 1416-106, the disposal of personal property that is no longer a value of the county. Attaches a copy of the court order for disposal, and a certificate of appraisal from the county assessor confirming inspections of said property. Property consists of, which we have already talked about, at the RAP scan X-ray system, but I am required to let you know why I do that, and it's because of ACA 1416-106. So I did want to let you know about that.
Judge.
Someone, yes.
I don't have a report for the Legislative Affairs Committee, but I did want to tell everybody.
Sorry.
No, we don't have a report. We haven't met, but we are going to be meeting toward the end of March. May end up being actually the beginning of April. But I wanted to remind everyone that that meeting is coming up, and so we're looking for legislative items to put on the agenda for consideration. So if there's something that members of the court want to bring forward, I wanted to let you know that now, as opposed to when you get your agenda. So
I've
be
already
thinking about
given
it.
some to Karen.
Yeah, no, George has been working with elected officials to gather what they want, but I wanted you all to also have the opportunity to bring things forward. So just letting you know. I think it's April 2nd. That's what yeah, okay.
The next thing we have is item number 10. John?
Thank you, Judge. George, will you read 10.1?
Yes. An ordinance adopting a 1/4 of 1% sales and use tax for the support of a public mass transportation system and facility, and resolving to refer such to the electorate. Whereas ACA 26-73-110 and 26-73-111 provide that the Quorum Court may adopt a sales and use tax not to exceed 1/4 of 1% for support of public mass transportation system and facility. And whereas it is required that such be referred to the electorate, and whereas Ozark Regional Transit Authority, of which Washington County is a member herein, has requested that said tax be adopted and referred, and whereas a vote for this ordinance by a justice of the peace does not necessarily reflect the opinion that he or she is in favor of said tax, now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, Article 1. There is hereby adopted a sales and use tax in the amount of 1/4 of 1% within Washington County, subject to the approval by the electorate, to be used to support a public mass transportation system and facilities. Article 2, that a special election for such is called and shall be held on May the 22nd, 2012, and the Washington County Election Commission shall be notified of such. Article 3, that the ballot title for such shall be substantially in the following form. 4, adoption of a 1/4 of 1% special sales and use tax within Washington County for the support of the public mass transportation system and facilities. or against adoption of a 1/4 of 1% special local sales and use tax within Washington County for the support of a public mass transportation system and facilities.
Thank you, George. I just wanted to go over kind of the process again. I know a lot of y'all were here last month, but I'll do my best to explain this. This will be on its third and final reading. And what we'll do is there will be motions made, possibly at least one, to vote on it. And there'll be some discussion. There may be amendments. And there's no way to predict sort of how the court works in that area. I can't really describe, but it's going to, there'll be some discussion. Before we vote on it, I'm assuming that there's some people that want to speak here. I mean, you don't have to, but if you want to, feel free to. But after that, then we'll actually make our vote. So, bear with us while we discuss that. I also want to remind everyone that this is a vote in order to allow folks to vote for or against the ballot. It's not something that we control. We don't control ORT. We do gather the money as a county, but the folks sitting on this court don't actually, we don't have any decision-making in that. All we're saying is that the only control that we really have is to say yes or no, this is not something that we should put before the public. And I think it's a very narrow reading of it as far as, I think there's been a lot of discussion about it, and I think it's important to remember that, and this is my opinion, this isn't the court's opinion, this is just my personal opinion, that we need to, on something that of this magnitude, I think, concerning transportation, I think it's important to allow the people of the county an opportunity to vote for or against it. It's a service that is important to a lot of people, and it's also a service that a lot of people don't think is necessary. And I think that it would be improper for me to personally vote for 15,000 people on that decision. And I think it's a reasonable and fair request by a group of people that went through a process, and they asked for this particular date for the vote. And I think it's important to remember that no one really knows how the vote's going to go. I mean, we can have folks say, when it will or will not pass, but I think it's important to remember that it takes a lot of power to say, well, I'm going to vote for 15,000 people. That's just my personal opinion. I wanted to throw in while I had the floor, and I'll just pass it on to the judge.
Thank you, John. We've had the reading. George has read. Do I have a motion?
I have a motion to pass 10.1.
Second.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. Now we have discussion. Are all in favor of the motion? Aye.
Well, we need
No,
to
we
have
need
discussion
to.
first.
Okay, Tom, I'm recognizing you first. Okay.
Yeah. I wanted to make a motion to amend this ordinance to move it from the May election to the November election. I believe the sense is to let as many people as possible vote on this issue, and I believe there will be more people at the November election than the May election. And to be respectful of our time, I'm just going to get this out of the way early.
Second.
Otherwise, there'll be no other amendments to the ordinance. George already added one amendment last time. I wonder about that special election statement in it. I don't believe this actually is a special election.
Well, the enabling legislation says it will be held at a special election, and so, but they requested to hold it at the primary. So it's a special election, but it's being held at the primary. Just like you can hold a special election at a general election.
Okay, then my only amendment then would be to move it to the November election.
Okay. And that's been seconded.
You got a motion. I've got a second by Butch. Discussion on this? Well, now, I want to recognize Eva here.
Well, I would like to speak about the amendment.
Okay.
For now. I did a lot of research because a lot of the comments that I received over the past week or so have been about the turnout issue. And I don't know where the number is coming from that they expect only a 5 to 8% turnout at this primary. This is a presidential primary, the last presidential primary in Washington County. And that was when we moved the presidential primary to February. So it was the only thing on the ballot. There was a roughly 37% of registered voters turned out. That's pretty significant. In the last general election held in the county, 45% voted. So 45% of the registered voters voted. So to say that we expect some dramatically different turnout in May versus November, I don't know that the numbers necessarily show that. And I'll also say, someone commented on this the last time that we were here on this issue. The legislature has seen fit to have this be a general election for our judicial races. And as a lawyer, judicial races are extremely important to me, and they should be extremely important to everyone in this room. In May, we will elect a Supreme Court justice, we will elect a Court of Appeals judge, and 2 circuit court judges for Washington County alone. That's a general election. Everybody comes to vote in those. And so if we have items of such significance on the May ballot, and if my research is accurate, and I think it is because it was from the county's website, regarding turnout, then I think the May election is just as good as November. And the ORT folks have been working to get this on the May ballot for quite some time, and I really don't see any reason to delay it. So those are my comments. Thank you.
Okay. Barbara?
Thank you. I think that partly for Eva's reasons that the turnout is not that significantly different, but my big reason for wanting it on the May ballot is we have now had 3 meetings. People have come and testified. People have brought information. This is a hot time. This is where people have been thinking about this, have been deciding, have been listening to, yes, we should do this, no, we shouldn't do this, and this is why. And so now is the time that the attention is on this issue, so now is the time to vote on it. If you wait until November, the attention is going to be taken up with the presidential race and the Senate races and the other transportation tax that's going to be on that ballot and so on. Now's the time that we have the interest. Now's the time that people have been listening to the issues on both sides. So now is the time to have that election.
Butch?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I can't tell you how many people have explained to me, and I've explained the same thing to several people. Everybody should get a chance to vote on this. And I just really feel like that with so many people thinking they need the right to vote on this, well, they do have the right to vote on this. If we vote yes on this issue, that I really believe it should go before just as many voters as possible. And I don't want to play around with numbers and say May's just as good as November or anything like that. There's nobody in this room that believes that there'll be more people come to the polls in May than what comes in November. And there's nobody in this room that could argue that the longer we wait on this, and that's not a very long wait, the more informed the voters will be. The longer this is gone with us looking at it, which we don't get a lot of say-so in what the ORT board decides to put before us. All we get to do is vote yes or no. But the longer we've watched this board work, the more informed we have become. I just believe if this is going to go to a vote by the people, it needs to go when more people are going to be there to vote and more people have a more adequate time to be informed on the issue. Thank you.
Yes, Rick.
I'll have to echo what Butch Pond has experienced. I have had the same type of experience with people not understanding all of that, helping to explain to them what this issue is about. a lot of confusion. I don't know that the voters are ready for this, and to give them more time to be educated on this issue, I think a November ballot issue is in order. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further discussion? So now we're going to vote on the amendment. Do I have a motion? You're going to have Tom, and then Butch has made the, okay.
Right.
All in favor of the amendment?
Call the roll.
Okay, Karen.
Rick Cochran,
Yes.
Lance Eads,
No.
John Furman,
No.
Barbara Fitzpatrick,
No.
Ann Harbison.
No.
Tom Lunsford,
Yes.
Eva Madison,
No.
Joe Patterson, Butch Vaughn,
Yes.
Marion Spears, Margie Ellsworth,
No.
Rex Bailey,
No, ma'am.
Candy Clark.
No.
Fails.
It fails. Yeah, the amendment
Back to the
fails.
main motion.
Now we're back to the main motion. We had a motion?
We've had a motion and a second. If there's no more discussion or amendments by the court right now, we're ready to take citizens' comments. Now, what our ordinance says about, it says, you know, of course, we've made special allowances for this ordinance, and we've had public comment on the first and second readings. And I know we had a lot of public comment, particularly on the second reading. What our ordinance calls for is now that we have a 10-minute discussion period, limited to 3 minutes per person, and then we have to alternate between a pro and a con. Now, the quorum court by majority vote can extend that time, but like we did last time. And so you can do that. You can extend it for what period you think is possible. I think last time it was kind of open-ended, but it will be 3 minutes per person, and we will need to alternate between pro and con so that one side doesn't get to dominate.
I move we go 45 minutes.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go 45 minutes. Do we need discussion?
Well, we can just vote on it unless there is discussion.
Is there any discussion? Eva?
I just wanted to actually speak to the ordinance when we get there, but we're not there yet, so.
Well, it looks like, okay, let's just go ahead and vote on 45 minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign?
No.
So it's going to be 45 minutes, be 3 minutes each, and we'll alternate pro and con.
And I would like to make a couple of little comments before we start. You found a little white piece of paper in your seats. Please get it out and read it, if you've got one. If you don't, borrow your neighbor's.
Judge,
This is important. Yes, I'm sorry.
I would ask that they be respectful of each other, not go through what we went through last time. Everybody has an opinion. It's good people can disagree, so I would ask that you be civil and be respectful.
Thank you. Yes, Butch.
I don't, did we mention that it would be good to try to hear from some of the people first that have not spoken yet on this issue? There are a great number of people here who spoke last minute.
I think that would be a good idea. The ones that spoke the last time we had a hearing, if they will be kind enough to allow the other people that have not spoke, allow them to come forth first if we can. I want to read this statement to you in case someone does not have it in their presence. The role of the quorum court in this matter is to determine whether or not the proposed text should be referred to the electors, not whether or not they are for the issue or against. Me, as the county judge, I preside over the quorum court without a vote, and I do not have the power to veto an ordinance that is being referred to the electors. So I think this is important that you realize this. What is going to be presented to the people, if this goes to the voters, has nothing to do with these folks sitting around this horseshoe. They simply have the authority to say yes or no. We're taking it to the polls for the people to vote on. So please, when you make your comments, keep that in mind. It's very important that you do. Thank you. Eva?
Before we actually get started, we waited till the end to do this. I'd like to see a show of hands like we did last time, so that, because we waited till the end and a lot of people had left, and so I know not everybody, hopefully not everybody wants to speak. But if we could have a show of hands for those of us those of you that would like us to support the ordinance, if you would raise your hands. Okay, put them down. And then those of you who would like us to vote against the ordinance, raise your hands. Okay, thank you very much. Just wanted to do that so we all saw it before we started.
So we're opening up the floor.
Right. Yeah, come forward. If you, right. What we want is, excuse me. I guess first we can take, we'll start off with one for the adoption. Please come forth if you've not ever spoken before. If you have spoken before, hold back until people who've never spoken before. Not.
Please identify yourself.
My name is Gloria Neal.
Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Gloria Neal. My official title is Lead Dispatcher for Ozark Regional Transit. I have been with Ozark Regional Transit since 2005. There is a great need for public transit in Northwest Arkansas. I know because I answer the phone calls. I answer the questions from the customers and the voters and the people from Northwest Arkansas. The questions of, how do I catch your bus? Where do I catch your bus? What time do I catch your bus? On a daily basis, I have to apologize because we have to tell them, I apologize, we only come to Lincoln, Farmington, and Prairie Grove once a week. I have to say, no, I apologize, but we currently don't service the crossover Mission Boulevard area in Fayetteville. I have to say, I apologize, but we currently don't travel to the Taneytown side of Springdale at this time. I also assist in scheduling for the paratransit. And to have to deny a ride because a vehicle is full on a paratransit route is difficult. For an individual who is having to go and see their doctor or to pay a utility bill, a simple utility bill that you all drive in your vehicle to go and pay, to go and buy groceries, to pick up food or medicine at the pharmacy. We do our best at Ozark Transit not to deny any of these rides. We do our best. But it does happen. It does. On fixed routes, a bus may already have 2 wheelchairs on board, and they have 1 more trying to board at a bus stop. That 3rd wheelchair has to be denied because there are only 2 locations in the rear of the bus for 2 wheelchair tie-downs. We have to expedite a paratransit vehicle to that location where the 3rd wheelchair is waiting. Otherwise, they have to wait another hour because there is 1 bus for 1 route for 1 hour. And for an individual who is confined to a wheelchair for a mobility device, that is very inconvenient. We need more routes. We need more vehicles. We need more transit operators. If we had more routes, if we had more vehicles to provide less delays in service, then the customers would hear no.
I'm going to have to ask you, your 3 minutes is up. I'm sorry. Thank you very much.
Next, we'll need somebody to speak against the ordinance. And again, if someone's never spoken before, let's let them come forth first.
Hello. My name is Ron Amon. I'm from Prairie Grove. Hope to be sitting in the Quorum Court in 2013. I strongly oppose this. Taking some notes. I'm against any entitlement programs in the county or state, but I would like to think that we could look to the greatest, brightest people in the United States here in Washington County. They're very generous people, and I bet there's other ways that we could address this situation rather than to create an entitlement program. I think if you were to take the amount of dollars that we plan to spend on this program, if you had a ridership of 200,000 people and you were to divide that by 365 days, that's 547 rides per day. Usually that's the one person getting on to go to a location, and the same person getting on to go back. So you're looking at 273 people. If you were to divide that, let's say that, I don't know what the operating budget is right now, but if it was $4 million and we're adding 7, that's $11 million. That averages $40,293 per year per person, per individual. So I think that there might be a lot better way of spending our money than that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next will be in favor of the ordinance.
Are you, okay.
Yeah. My name is Art Hobson. I'm at 525 North Olive Avenue. I've got 2 economic points that were not made this time or last time. First involves the cost of automobile transportation for the average person. According to the American Automobile Association, it costs $9,500 per person per year to own and operate an automobile. That's quite a chunk of change. I will appreciate it if you'll let us vote on this, because you'll let us save, if we so desire, maybe $9,500 a year by dropping down from 2 cars to 1 car, or from 1 car to 0 cars. And, you know, poor people can't afford that $9,500. So we really need this savings. Second economic point is I've heard a lot about subsidies and entitlements. But if you're going to talk about subsidies and entitlements, let's talk about subsidies and entitlements for the automobile, because they are enormous, far beyond any subsidies or entitlements for mass transit. I've got a report here. It's typical of these reports, and I've seen several of these, and they all agree pretty much along the same financial lines. This is called the real price of gasoline. You can Google on it and look at it if you want. It's done by the study is made by the International Center for Technology Assessment. And the short story is that Americans pay between $0.8 trillion and $2.3 trillion a year to subsidize the automobile. That's above and beyond gasoline taxes and the cost of the gasoline itself. If you put that on gasoline taxes, it would be $6 a gallon to $19 a gallon in extra payments that the driver should pay if we're not to subsidize or give entitlements to drivers. A lot of this is just for very direct costs, subsidies of oil industry and so forth. It's also for highways and ambulances and police service. Automobile drivers don't pay for more than about half of those direct costs. But then the indirect costs of the deaths and the injuries from automobiles and all the costs that they cost, especially the environmental costs, the pollution costs, the health costs of the pollution from automobiles, is just enormous. And so do think about that when the next person complains about entitlements or subsidies for transit. We need to balance this playing field. The trouble is the market imbalances that have been created by the enormous subsidy that we give to the automobile is what's got everything so messed up in transportation on I-540 and every place else.
I'm sorry, sir. Thank you
I
very
came out
much
just
for-
right. Thank you.
Okay. Against the ordinance?
Hi, my name is Christine Keller. I live in rural western Washington County, Lincoln area. and I'm just a mom that's trying to pay bills. And last year, my property taxes went up in Lincoln because the school board called a special election to raise my property taxes. Next week, they're calling a special election in Lincoln to raise sales tax. There's going to be a sales tax increase in Taneytown next week as well. We had a special election in Fayetteville in October to raise property or sales taxes. The state wants to raise our taxes next month, in November. I'm trying to make the point that every level of government wants another piece of our tax dollars, always for a good reason. It's just a penny for the children. It's just $1 here. It's just $1 there. And it's adding up to the point that it's unaffordable. And the problem with putting it on the ballot at this time is that, talk about a level playing field, the people who don't want to pay more tax don't have a level playing field because we can't compete with the people that have this advertising budgets. They have the billboards and all that. Regular taxpayers like me don't have the means to notify voters and turn people out. And so it doesn't feel like a level playing field. I don't oppose buses or the people who need them, but I just think that there needs to be another way to do this that isn't quite so much money, because this was originally brought up as they were going to lose their funding, so that's why this special election was being called. And then we find out that wasn't really the case. They're not going to lose their funding, and they're going to have more funding than they had before. So why do they need an extra $7 million every year? For $7 million, they could find ways to meet the needs of people that would be more cost effective and not have to take so much taxpayer money to do it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'll be for the ordinance.
I'm Michael Lanier. I'd like to address the point that Judge Edwards brought up earlier, and that the question before y'all is not the merits of whether or not we want more mass transit, whether or not it's better to raise taxes on people, but whether or not the people should have the right to decide. I feel that if you cannot raise this to a level to where people have the option of making a decision on this, then what does rise to the level? What affects more people than transit? Whether you take mass transit, whether you're in the highway, driving up and down in your car, it affects everyone. So everyone should have the option to weigh in on this. And like I said, there's merits on both sides, and that's not what's before you right now. Your decision will be, do you take it upon yourself to decide whether or not people have the right to make the decisions themselves, or whether or not y'all have that right? And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I just wondered where you lived. We were getting good people to say where they were from, so I was curious.
I work in Springdale, but I do live in Madison County.
Okay, just curious.
Okay, now against the ordinance.
My name is Joe Alexander. I live in 22nd Street in Fayetteville. I've been watching the ORT buses go around Fayetteville for several years now. Now, I often see them empty, sometimes with 2 or 3 people riding them, and I've never seen them with more than half a dozen people riding one of the big buses. It's clear to me that few people seem to want to ride the bus, probably less than 5% in Fayetteville. Although it's a lot of expense and responsibility to maintain a car, by far the vast majority would rather do that. Probably many people are the same as me. I drive mostly to go to work and have heavy tools and equipment to carry, and it's completely impractical to take a bus. Others would rather be more in control of their own transportation and are willing to bear the expenses and responsibilities of their car to do so, and that's fine. The advocates of this ORT tax appear to me to have an attitude that they are somehow morally superior because they want others to be responsible for their transportation. When I was younger, I used to hitchhike a lot, but I recognized that nobody had any obligation to give me a ride. It was a matter of their voluntary generosity whether they let me have a ride in the car that they were paying for. And the advocates of this tax are like hitchhikers who think other people should be forced to give them a ride. At the last meeting, I heard basically three categories of people speak in favor of the tax. First were some who said that they had a car but sometimes preferred to ride a bus. That's fine, it's good to have choices, but people of good character wouldn't want to force others to pay for their bus rides as these people do. Second, there were students who said a subsidized bus ride to school would enable them to become productive and contributing citizens later. That's just a hypothetical projection. We learn our most important lessons in real life outside the classroom, and I'd say it's just as likely that if students learn that they can get subsidized transportation to school, they'll continue to look for more ways to get taxpayer-funded goodies after they graduate. Third were some handicapped people who said that because they had difficulty getting around, the public should be required to subsidize their transportation. I think this is a matter more of character than circumstance. For instance, I know a woman who broke her back in an accident several years ago. She has metal hardware in her back that gives her constant pain and discomfort. She can only walk short distances with the help of a cane. If there's anyone in a position to claim she should get tax-funded benefits, I think it is her. But she doesn't. I've never known her to ride the ORT. She maintains a car and a scooter and takes responsibility for her own transportation. She works as a massage therapist and spends her full time helping others in spite of her own severe problems. Whenever I do some work to help her out, she offers to pay me for it. So I think it's more a matter of character than circumstance whether a person takes the attitude that they deserve benefits forcibly taken from the general public. If the goal is transportation for the handicapped, surely some sort of smaller, less expensive, voluntarily maintained system can be established. So I urge you not to put this on the ballot for May. Move it to November if you really think it should be done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
For the ordinance.
Well, as a point of character, I did not speak last week or at any previous meeting. My name is Lauren Hawkins, and I'm a resident of Fayetteville. I appreciate the good job that you folks all do, and I appreciate that you are willing to take up to bring this forth to the people. The people should get to vote on this. I value your judgments in whether a bridge or 2 bridges or 3 bridges need to be rebuilt. These are entitlements, and I believe that public transit, it doesn't matter what I believe the people should be able to vote on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, against the ordinance?
I'm Tony Blance from Springdale. What I have in this folder right here, if this ever got before a district attorney, would send most people to prison. We have emails that they have about all kinds of things. Fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud, using or misallocating government equipment and funds. The biggest crime here is not that they lied to you, it's that they lied to all these other people. That's the big issue. They were told that this, I even have a flyer here that said, we will lose our ride, and that's not true. This is a lack of character. I am really, really, really upset about this. If they can't be honest in their dealings, they shouldn't have any dealings whatsoever. Another thing that has been brought up is that there's 4 counties in the Northwest Arkansas Regional Transit Board. 4 counties are represented. That's Madison, Carroll, Benton, and Washington. Madison and Carroll were never offered the opportunity to vote on tax for this. Benton turned it down, and now they want Washington County voters to shoulder the burden for everything. Then they had the intestinal fortitude to ship in a whole bunch of students from NWAC, Northwest Arkansas Community College, which is not inside Washington County, to talk about what they need. They already have a contract with ORT. ORT then gets over there, and we have the emails right here. They actually sat over there and they worked together to actually sit over there and formulate a story to tell to those students to get them to load up in here. That is wrong. There's a lot of people who need transportation. I'll guarantee you, I've had to go to the VA myself. If I needed to get to the VA because I had lack of transportation, there is a courtesy van. Every veteran is entitled to that. All you have to do is tell them, I need a courtesy van. They'll send it straight to you. I also got off the phone with a friend of mine who works as a speech pathologist for little children. She works with Medicare, Medicaid kids all the time, and various other people who need it. Well, guess what? If you tell your Medicare provider or the doctor's office that you need a ride, guess what? You can also get that funded. This is not true. They're not being truthful with us. And I'm really upset that this is the way that they want to do business. I ask you not to put this up before the taxpayers at all. You should not even let this go to vote. This is fraud, conspiracy to commit fraud and misallocation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you for hearing me today and for having this hearing. My name is Joanna Pollock, and I live in Fayetteville. I wrote out something so that I don't ramble too much. Expanded transit will give more people a way to work, to educational pursuits, and to doctor's appointments, and to recreation, and more life options for those of us who cannot drive. Expanded public transit will reduce traffic and pollution. And when people spend less money on gasoline, then they can also spend more money in our local economy. And then the buses can take them to those businesses to spend that money. Expanding transit is a win-win-win. And a 1/4-cent sales tax is a reasonable investment for such a high return. So I do respectfully request that you allow this issue to be referred to the electorate. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Against?
Yes, come on.
Thank you very much. I know I've been here a couple times. I'll make different points, I promise. And I really want to speak to the point that I've heard several of y'all make, and that is that your issue, the issue before you, is whether or not to refer this to voters or not. And I would suggest that as representatives of the taxpayers and elected officials who have a responsibility of looking out for the interests of the county, you've got some fundamental questions that you need to ask yourself before you just put something on the ballot because you were asked to do so. And one issue and one real concern, and we've heard it mentioned here tonight, is that some of the underlying rationale and justification you were given as to why this ballot question is needed has been proven wrong. And I've brought the transcript from your meeting last March of 2011, where a senior ORT official said the federal funding change will result in the elimination of all fixed routes. And if this happens, they will have to shut down the bus system because they can't continue to operate the paratransit system without the economy of the fixed bus routes. That's been disproven. That's not true. And that was said in different ways 6 times to you a year ago when you voted your intent to put something on the ballot. If I were in your shoes, that would give me grave concerns about whether this is the right proposal to put on the ballot. My second point that I would think would be part of your decision making before you refer some to voters is the use of the funds fully thought out? Is a plan in place for how this very large amount of new taxpayer dollars is going to be spent and going to be administered and going to be monitored? $7.5 million a year over a decade. There's no sunset on this, so this tax will be collected and referred on for transit for a decade or longer. That's $75 million over the next decade. There is no written agreement. There's no plan in place for how these new funds will be dispersed between Ozark Regional Transit and Razorback Transit. the other transit provider in Northwest Arkansas. And Razorback Transit happens to serve many, many more riders, many, many more customers than Ozark Transit, but that's not defined. Y'all are about to ask voters to commit $7.5 million annually, but yet there's no clarification for where those dollars are going to go or what they're going to be spent on. There's also no discussion about whether those funds could be used for light rail. This is a poorly defined proposal that y'all are about to ask voters to consider. So again, I've made the points that this is not regional in scope. I've made the points that this does nothing to address the great highway needs that we have as a region. We do need to do more to address transit. I don't disagree with all the speakers who said transit is a vital service, but this is not the right proposal. Thank you,
Mike.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
For the ordinance?
Yes, ma'am. Come forward.
The only time that I can, my name is Alice Lillian Lee Hanna. I am disabled, and I cannot talk about things too much to the public until I get angry about it. I am fully angry. People don't understand what I would like to say. I wish that you could make the vote as to what it is that we get concerning the transportation, because all I really want to say now, supposing something happened to your job and you lose it. Supposing something happened to your house and you lose it. You're going to be going downhill. And if there's a job for to clean the toilet seats, which I wouldn't mind if I could get that myself, even to be a volunteer worker, just to have somewhere to go and something to do. If you would lose these things, your things that you have now, you need transportation. There's too many billion people of us that don't have, and we try to get. And also, there's so many people that I run into every day. They don't even have no idea that Ozark Transit is a transportation for the public. They think it's medical only. But anywhere I go, if I just ask a question or something and I find like they don't know it correctly, I'll give them correctness. And I'll volunteer anywhere. But please remember, if you lose your job, something always come up with everybody that loses their jobs for whatever reason. How are you going to pay for your car as you do now? How are you going to take care of it? How are you going to take care of your bill payments if you got the money for it? You need transportation. We need that transportation more than we got it now.
Thank you, ma'am.
Against the ordinance?
Hello, my name is Jeff Oland. I was the fellow that passed out this paperwork to you. Some of you maybe had a chance to look at the video that we put together that explains, and these are the documents that back up the video. And the reason for all that work was to show the misinformation that's gone around about this. For example, it was brought up a little earlier, telling people they'd lose their rides or the loss of all fixed routes. That's one of the earlier documents just 6-8 weeks ago. So that wasn't that long ago, and all that has changed. It was also mentioned to me by one of the members here that they believe, I don't recall which person I talked to about this, and it was that they were going to stick with what they had learned about a year ago. Well, a lot of things have changed a year ago. The funding is, they're not going to lose funding. I'm just going to read out my thoughts here because I'll do better that way, I believe. Good ideas don't require deception. Good ideas sell themselves. Empty buses is an indicator of a bad idea. Expanding busing is not a solution to low ridership. More money is not a solution to a premature plan. You've been duped into thinking funding would go away. Now we know that's not true. At the very least, this vote to expand busing should be delayed until demand requires it and other ideas are explored. In our meeting with Mr. Pumphrey of ORT, we asked him about private business involvement and church contributions that could be made as an alternative. Mr. Pumphrey stated that business has declined to help and he wouldn't entertain the idea. About church donations, he reacted curtly and said, "Where were they when so-and-so needed a ride?" We have found in his emails that ORT may tap into a fund from Toyota and has used a fund donated from a church to help finance a medical patient. Mr. Pumphrey is not truthful and clearly wishes to expand busing. I took some film today of some empty buses and then some previous times from a bus rider that said they're always full. I have film footage now. I took some buses around today, and from Walmart to the university area up to the mall, the largest capacity the bus had was 6 people in a 24-passenger capacity. And this is about a half dozen buses at random times during the course of the day. And the largest was 6 people riding in the bus. Busing at present is a black hole for taxpayer dollars. As elected representatives, you owe it to your constituents to vote no to protect them from this charade. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, for the ordinance.
Hello, Judge, members
Hi.
of the court. My name is Frank Mayfield. I'm from rural Washington County, but I want to speak to you tonight on behalf of Arkansas Interfaith Power and Light. We're a nonprofit organization, and we hold 2 biblical tenets very near and dear. One is that we are stewards of creation, and that we need to take care of the wonderful environment that we've been given and entrusted to us. And the second is that we are our brothers and sisters' keepers. This ordinance, being able to vote on it, speaks right to that. We're looking at gas going to $5 perhaps this summer. It's important that we have alternatives to automobiles. If we don't make those investments now, where are we going to be in 5 years? It's also doubly important for the most vulnerable, and those are the least means in our society, to be able to have transportation so that they can make their contribution and be productive members of our community. I urge you to put this on the ballot and let the citizens make the decision. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Against?
I'm Jim Lobler. I live in the city limits of Fayetteville and West Fayetteville. I want to clarify something. There's a lot of people coming up here and speaking with wheelchairs. That's not what we're talking about. People are against it. It's the methodology, it's the deceit, and it's the things that are going on that have nothing to do with the buses. Okay, it has to do with I'll try to read here. Maybe I can get through it faster. Now, one of my burns is the city of Fayetteville crossing into other government's business and wanting more tax for everybody. They know it's their city's citizens that make up most of the riders, but they've run out of tax proposals with their constituents. They fear of being found out or what are they're really up to. So what do? They ask you to pay for it. How dare they try to represent us without a vote? How dare they try to obligate us for more taxes? The school district raised taxes. The city raises taxes. We don't need any more municipalities dragging on our wallets. You can quote me, and I'm sure many others in this city too. Fayetteville does not represent any of us because they didn't ask us to vote. So Mayor Jordan was way out of line on this one, but he's the guy with the signature. Now, here's what they are doing. Have you seen their 2030 plan and the infilling project they wish to implement? One of them told me, I don't care what the people think when it came up to a tax issue, when the school tax issue was up. This is where they want to drag you. These people actually develop the city's plans with influence, and get ready, here's the nut part, with the influence from international, non-governmental organizations. Now, you can say I'm crazy. Dare me to give you the paperwork with Mayor Jordan's signature on it. Matter of fact, Mayor Jordan said to me personally, he's proud of it. What they're doing is trying to build a utopia. It hasn't.
Sir, you're off of the subject.
No, ma'am. They've been wielding their power around. They come in here and they act like the city of Fayetteville.
We're not here to speak on Mayor Jordan. We're here to speak about the Ozark Regional Transit, so I would appreciate it if we could proceed with that, and I thank you.
Okay. So here's what we have is like the other people said, you know, the people don't want you to know what they're doing. $7 million, you're going to hand $7 million to somebody and say, spend it wisely. You know, when all of us have evidence of other things that are going on, that other interests, there are other interests in this thing happening.
Your time's up, Jim. Thank you.
For the ordinance.
Grab a seat. I'm not going to identify yourself.
My name's Larry Froelich, and I'm an attorney, and I live in Washington County, and actually they annexed me into Spring Hill recently. I had the good fortune to be associated with Ozark Regional Transit for many years on their board, and these are some of the most responsible people you will ever meet. They are careful about every dollar. They are audited and re-audited. They are professional in what they do. And by referring this to the public vote, what you are saying, of course, is that you believe that they could be and will be responsible stewards. And I'm sure that they will. As far as the opposition, it seems like most of the people are, well, we don't want to raise taxes, which has become a mantra. But of course, if you know that in fact our taxes in this country are way below the tax rates that are paid by the other advanced nations in the world. This is well known, and so it is well known, and so I would just say too that the people seemed in the opposition seem to be against government in general, and what we have to remember is government is what we do together. It's the we. And this is the best thing that we do is government, and it has fostered and created this country and protected it. So you can trust Ozark Regional Transit, I assure you.
Thank you. Our 45 minutes is up. We had set the time for 45 minutes, and it's up. I would like to thank each and every one of you tonight. It's been a good crowd. People have been respectful, and I do want you to know I appreciate that. Thank you all very much. So now we're ready to, we've got a motion.
Okay, yeah, we're ready to vote unless there's more quorum court discussion.
Do we have any more quorum court discussions on this?
Judge, just very briefly.
Yes.
I wanted to speak to the issue about the regional approach, because that's something that I've heard a little bit about, and we all know that these objections were sort of first raised about the lack of a regional approach. I think as early as October they were discussed at Regional Mobility Authority. I think that's about right. And we said at sort of our January and our February meetings that if there was to be a regional approach, let's hear it. Let's have some time. We've got time to think about it. And it's now been several months since these issues were first raised, and I know from speaking with the folks at ORT that they've sort of been told you just got to wait. There's not been a regional approach given, and so while we would prefer that there was a regional approach in place right now, there's not, and ORT is just left to wait, and I think they've been planning for this a long time, and they deserve to be able to go forward with it. I'll also say that this notion that we should follow what Benton County does, Benton County wasn't very concerned with what we did. We voted to, back in March, we gave an indication that we wanted to put this on the ballot. Benton County disagreed with us. They did their own thing. They're not listening to us. I don't really know why we should listen to them. We were elected to vote for, we were elected to represent people in Washington County, and that's what I think we should do. And I'll say this too. Washington County is often a leader, and I am very happy for Washington County to be the leader when it comes to transit. And if that's what it takes to get this issue resolved on a regional basis, then maybe this county does need to step forward and take a lead in that issue. I'll also say that I think all of us on the court have heard overwhelmingly from the public on this issue. It's been a debate that's been going on now for several months. I've received telephone calls. I've received handwritten letters in the mail, lots of emails. People have sent me Facebook messages. You name it, if there's a communication method, I've received a communication about this issue through that method. I've lost track. Overwhelmingly, though, those comments have been in support of this ordinance. They've been in support of putting this to the voters. And I've tried my very best to track where those people are coming from in the county. And to the extent I've been able, my constituents, almost without exception in my district, support this. So I will be voting for this, as I've said all along, and I hope that we can put this measure on the ballot in May. Thank you.
Thank you. Butch.
We've all had to watch what the ORT board has to do. We don't really get a lot of say in their workings, and because Benton County was brought up and not in support of this, I would like to compliment and recognize the two smaller counties, you might say, Carroll and Madison, that they're really in support of this ordinance coming before us. The only thing about it is, as a matter of fact, so urgent that they sent their proxies on the vote. I'm kind of thinking that the ORT board could have stayed together and been in agreement, and even had Benton County come along if the amount of the tax had been a little smaller. In an ORT, everybody here ought to be encouraged by the notion of Madison and Carroll County being so supportive of this. If the amount of the tax was a little smaller, they might have been able to encourage their quorum courts to put a sales tax on the ballot in their counties also. I mean, the more I watch this and the more that I kind of see a picture of it, and my heart goes out to the board for being in such a turmoil. I just kind of think more time and more meetings and more talk. There could have been something done, some kind of proposal that all four of the counties could have gone for, and all four of the counties could have had a sales tax proposal on the ballot, most likely in November, when it would have been time for the people to come and vote. They'd have had more voters come to the polls. They would have been more informed. I'm for people getting to vote for something, but I can't be for the people getting to vote, but no, let's hurry up and do it now when there'll be fewer people there and they'll be less informed. Thank you.
Tom.
One thing I didn't mention when I made my motion, because I knew my motion was going to die anyway, was that one of the reasons I wanted it in November was so that the people would be confronted with how many taxes are actually being asked of them. It's actually, between now and November, 3/4 of a cent and not 1/4 of a cent. And I really get disturbed with this terminology, 1/4 of a cent, because people say, well, that's only 25 cents on every $100.
That's right.
No, it's $7.5 million a year. And when we voted on our resolution to send this to the people, it was unanimous to send it. That was the vote around this horseshoe. Carnahan voted against, that's true, Gary Carnahan. Thank you. And I voted for it. I didn't know we even had the right to stop it from going to election. But since then, I've seen a lot of the things that I was told that night are not what I was told. That has helped to change my mind. I haven't had a chance to read all these documents that were laid for us tonight, but I've got a real problem with this now, and I'm not going to be able to support it tonight, but I want the people watching television to know why. You know, it's not that I am against people being able to vote on whether or not they tax themselves. It's because I don't like the way this was presented, and I don't think that they're probably going to get the facts, and they're going to be told it's just a little 1/4 cent sales tax. But when this tax was asked for, if y'all will remember, they asked for $15 million a year, not $7.5, because they wanted Benton and Washington County both, and our sales taxes run pretty close to the same. So it would have been approximately $7.5 million per county. So if that had gone in both counties and had passed in both counties, that would have been $15 million a year new revenue to that bus company. Well, it turned out after Benton County voted no, which surprised me, because at that time I didn't know we could do that. $7.5 million seems to be enough. Started out $15 million. And I'm like Butch, I don't know why some of these other counties can't contribute, you know, some of their own money to it. So anyway, I don't plan to support this tonight for that reason, because I don't feel like I yet have all the facts. And secondly, because the ordinance I'm being asked to vote on, and I know it's state mandated terminology, is asking me to adopt this tax. And somebody said that there is nothing wrong with compromise except when it's purchased with principle. And it's against my principles to vote for an ordinance adopting a tax. So I will not be voting for this ordinance tonight. Thank you, Judge.
Candy.
I actually share a lot of Mr. Lundstrom's views. I am horrifically disappointed in what I have learned over the course of a year, because we voted on this in March 2011. Disappointed in some of the information I have received that indicates some of what we were told in March was not necessarily the truth. I have not, however, heard any compelling reason not to let the people decide on this tax. I haven't heard it tonight, haven't heard it in the email. The election in May is a primary election. That means Republicans are going to be voting on their presidential candidate. Democrats are going to be voting in some contested races as well. We're going to elect our judicial slate, including a Supreme Court justice. I have absolute confidence that voter turnout will be significant enough to matter. I also have absolute confidence that all of these arguments we have heard over 2 months now, and y'all, you're very compelling, both sides, that we will have time in the next 60 days to get those arguments out further to the public. Tony wrote, I think, an excellent article today in the paper voicing some of these concerns with how ORT and NWAC have conducted themselves. Not saying true or false, just saying that information is starting to get out. I have faith in the people. Maybe I'm antiquated, and maybe I am too idealistic. Trust me, if you know me, you know I'm not idealistic. But I do have faith in the people to make a choice on this tax, pro or con. It is not, I do not think it is my role to make a value choice if people should have mass transit or not. That's up to the voters. And sales tax, that's coming straight from our pocket. So I think we can express our opinions at the ballot box. And ladies and gentlemen, the way I was brought up, that's the way government's supposed to work. So I will be supporting putting this on the ballot, and I'll go no further telling you if I'm for or against it in May. But I think it should go to the people. I have faith.
Rex.
Judge, the easiest thing for me to be voting no on this. It would be very, it'd be very easy for me.
I called Mayor Van Hoos and I told him how disappointed I was. You know, I've caught heat from the Tea Party, my own party, Chamber of Commerce, but my word is my bond. I'm very close to two organizations, and that's veterans there in Springdale who are, a lot of them Vietnam era vets like myself, who for 40 years, have fought drug addiction and alcohol addiction. They depend on those Arkansans and get them back and forth. Also, Arkansas Support Network. They have 800 clients in Washington, Benton County. And one of my wife's cousins is involved. I told them that I would vote for this. And my word is my bond. Maybe if I knew a little bit more than what I knew before, I probably would. I'm a little disappointed. I talked to Mr. Malone. This should have come out early, all this stuff. I talked to Perry Webb, the Chamber of Commerce, that come and talk. They come to me and, you know, it should come out early. This has been going on since March. So I've even questioned, well, I'm only a conservative when I want to be. I think anybody around this horseshoe will tell you that I'm a conservative. Yeah. If anybody, whoever served with me on the Springdale City Council and Mayor Van Hoos, they'll tell you I'm a conservative. It doesn't mean I'm going to vote for this. I'm going to let the people vote. Now, if I hadn't given my vote, like I say, my word's my bond. I committed, and maybe I committed too early. Maybe the Tea Party and my Republican Party, maybe they're right. Maybe I should vote against them. But I'm not going to, for those two reasons. The vets and Arkansas Support Network.
Thank you very much. Rick.
I have received a lot of email and handwritten mail and phone calls. The overwhelming majority has come from folks who are NWAC riders who have evidently been very much misinformed about the fact that their rides are going to go away. I have heard from my constituents from my district, and none of them are in support of this. I have concerns when, well, you've heard the tale of the emperor's new clothes, and I feel that we on this horseshoe are the emperor, and the ORT is the tailor, and that the people who have come before us to tell us that there's something wrong is that little boy who says the king, he has no clothes. I cannot support this under the circumstances that we've been presented. I really think that a regional approach is what we need, and this does not give us that. So I won't be supporting this tonight. Thank you.
Barbara.
A regional support, a regional idea would have been nice. Really would. And that's what they first asked for. And a chunk of the region said, we don't think people should vote on this. So they're down to us. And that's why it's $7.5 million, because it's for Washington County. It's not going to be Washington County dollars spent on Madison County routes or Carroll County routes or Benton County routes, other than those that are already being funded by things like NWAC or Rogers or so on. Remember that the ORT is not just counties. It is the counties and the cities therein and a few private partners. So there are various sources of funding. My thought is that if we say no, nobody gets a choice. It goes away. The people cannot bring this back by petition. The only way that you get a chance to vote for this is if we say, yes, put it on the ballot. Now, whether or not you pass it, that's up to you. And I'm going to, I'll go on a limb. I'm going to say I'm in favor of it. But then I've lived a bunch of places, and I've had places in my life, as the lady up front mentioned, where I didn't have a job, or I didn't have a car, or I was being a single parent and trying to deal with how the heck do I get rent paid and food on the table and so on, and the only way I could get to one was some kind of transit. You know, been there, done that. So, well, I know that there are people in Fayetteville who are in that same place, and do you want to know the truth? I would rather see them riding a bus that is subsidized, not as much as gasoline is, but it's subsidized, more than I would like to see them on welfare. That's basically my opinion of the transit issue itself. But my opinion of whether or not we should vote to put this on the ballot is really simple. The only way it gets to the people is if we put it on the ballot. No other way will it get there. So I am voting to put it on the ballot.
I just wanted to remind everybody here tonight that regardless of how this vote goes tonight, I hope you all remember to go to the polls on the primary day, and you all remember to go to the polls and register to vote, because being involved in your government is great. And I've been very, very excited about the turnout the last couple of months, and I hope that this continues, because it's very important that you continue to pay attention. And also, there's been a lot of talk tonight about raising taxes, and there's been a lot of talk tonight about how government's always doing that. But please remember that the fine, hardworking people around this horseshoe tonight all voted to lower your taxes last year, and so you should all thank them for that. So.
Good.
Here. I had a lot of phone calls and emails, and like everybody else around this horseshoe did, and probably some people out there that'd like to shoot me because they couldn't get a commitment from me. And I personally feel like it is very unfair to make a final decision until you shouldn't do that until the last person came up and made public comment and the last person on the court spoke. That is very unfair. I didn't go by the house and shave and put on clean clothes and tell my wife, honey, this is how I'm going to vote tonight, I promise you. So whatever happens or whatever's said up there, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do that for you. That just did not happen. There's no reason for y'all to be here if all of us had our minds made up. And I may just like to enjoy having the last say. I call for the question.
That's fine. Okay, we're ready to vote. I guess Karen needs to call the roll.
Karen needs to call the roll.
Karen, would you call the roll, please?
Rick Cochran.
No.
Lance Heath.
No.
John Furman.
Yes.
Barbara Fitzpatrick.
Yes.
Ann Harbison.
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom.
No.
Eva Madison.
Yes.
Joe Patterson. Butch Pond.
No.
Mary Ann Spears. Margie Alsbrook.
Yes.
Rex Bailey.
Yes, ma'am.
Candy Clark.
Yes. It passes.
7.
So this will go on the ballot in May. Now, there has been some comments made about the turnout. It's not as good in May, and it could be better in November, and so on and so forth. There's no reason for that turnout to not be as good in May as it is in November. It takes your effort to go to the polls and vote. And if you've come here with us the last 2 or 3 months, then you need to get yourselves together and you need to go to the polls. You've got ORT to help you get there, a lot of you, so go vote, however you vote.
Okay, that's funny.
We'll take a break. Can we take a break?
Judge,
Can we take a break?
can we have a recess, Judge?
Yeah, we've only got one item left on it, but yes.
Just a stop.
5 minutes,
Yeah. I want to say, speak to people.
No, he wants to recess.
Yeah, we're taking a recess. Yeah. You can't spend money, but then the question is, but does that mean you can't use email or things like that too? I mean, I realize it costs money, but it's not the same thing spending money, but you take ads out or things like that.
Well, apparently.
If you do that on RG, then you do that at home after hours. They dealing with
Just a one item.
Exactly. Well, and it's because, it's government using government resources to advance their own agenda, and it's taxpayer money, even if taxpayers are against it.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think we only have one item left on the agenda. Let's go ahead and proceed. I think everyone wants to get home. Item number 11. John.
Thank you, Judge. George, will you please read 11.1?
Yes. An emergency ordinance amending Washington County Code 11-202.1 pertaining to conditional use permits and phase developments. Whereas Washington County Code 11-202.1 currently limits the time in which all conditions must be met upon the issuance of a conditional permit. And whereas in this economic climate, phase developments need more time to comply due to financial constraints. Now therefore be it ordained by the Quorum Court of Washington County, Arkansas, Article 1, Washington County Code 11-202.1 is hereby amended to read as follows. I'll read the additional language. C, if a land development approval or approval pursuant to Article 8 is required and the applicant desires to build a phase development, then the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Adjustment may consider an alternate phasing and expiration timeline that is reasonable for the proposed conditional use. The phasing plan and expiration timeline must be presented and approved as a part of the conditional use permit. The planning director may grant up to 2 90-day extensions. The denial of any extension may be appealed to the board. However, no event shall more than 2 extensions be granted. E, any conditional use permit that fails to comply with subsections A, B, or C of this section shall expire and be null and void. Article 2, emergency clause. It is hereby determined that it is in the public's best interest for this ordinance to be effective immediately. And the general health, safety, and welfare of the citizens are affected by such for the reasons as set out above. Therefore, an emergency is declared to exist, and this ordinance shall be and is effective from the date of its passage.
Thank you, George. This ordinance is brought by Juliet Ritchie in order to sort of mesh, I think, what the county planning provides and city and the growth area of Washington, like Fayetteville or Springdale, for conditional use permits. That's my understanding. With the way the economy's gone, it takes longer for projects to develop, and we had a shorter permitting phase than some of the other entities needed. That's about the extent of my knowledge on it. If there's any questions, Juliet has patiently waited to answer them. If there aren't any questions, I'd like to make the motion that we pass this.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Do we have any public comment? Karen, would you call the roll?
Rick Cochran?
Yes.
Lance East?
Yes.
John Farman?
Yes.
Barbara Fitzpatrick?
Yes.
Ann Harbison?
Yes.
Tom Lundstrom?
Yes.
Eva Madison?
Yes.
Joe Patterson? Luke Hawk?
Yes.
Marion Spears? Martin Alford? Yes. Greg Bailey?
Yes, ma'am.
Andy Clark?
I like it when we all get along. Yes.
Retired.
Thank you for bringing us together, Juliet.
Do I have any other business to come before the court?
No, it's sleeting.
Do I have any
sleeping.
other citizens' comments that would like to speak? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor of adjournment? Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
Be careful.